By the time the world of movies and the world of education get into the streets of Black America, some strange things happen. Because what history and the movies have told the black man is that he's nobody unless he joins the white world.
That is not true. Do not believe that.
That is dead wrong.
They don't discriminate against me because I'm a Christian. They're discriminating against me because I'm black.
I grudge them on, you know. I true him a fight for black liberation. And him a one true warrior. Them I want to try stop him. But them can't stop the man. Them can't stop Raheem Shabazz. That's why anytime me want to listen to revolutionary liberation vibes, me tune into Necessary Blackness podcast. Me not into them little yaga podcast them. I be your Necessary Blackness me rock with. Anytime me want your true warrior talking.
Lord God. Peace and power, black family. This is your host, Raheem Shabazz, and we are here for another episode of Necessary Blackness podcast. And today, family, we're going to talk about the Netflix movie, Self-Made, the Madam C.J. Walker story, and what we're going to do is we're going to debunk all the lies and the half-truth that is contained in this docu-series. Now, many of y'all might not know that a lot of these documentaries and these series that are coming out, the producers are using their creative license that they are giving to create fictional situations and composite characters. And the reason they do this is to further their story arc. So when you look at this film, you're going to see that it includes making two successful black women arch enemies, romanticizing a gay relationship between Madam C.J. Walker's daughter that did not exist, and vilifying Annie Malone as a bitter woman that stalked Madam C.J. Walker and was hell-bent on making sure she fell. This is not truthful. Annie Malone was actually a mentor to Madam C.J. Walker, although in their later years they did have disagreements, but for the most part, they was not arch enemies as depicted in this film. We're going to talk about that and more when I come back from a quick commercial break. This is Raheem Shabazz, and you are tuned in to Necessary Blackness Podcast. Check out MCJ, musicculturejournalism.com. Hip-hop is a global movement, reaching all aspects of music, culture, and journalism. MCJ is the premier destination for culture-driven video and editorial content around the country. Check out musicculturejournalism.com. Log on today.
Elementary Genocide provides a critical expose of mass incarceration, the war on drugs, and the connection between slavery, capitalism, and the prison-industrial complex. Visit our website at www.elementarygenocide.com. Now available, Elementary Genocide, the School-to-Prison Pipeline. Elementary Genocide 2, the Board of Education versus the Board of Incarceration. And the newest release, Elementary Genocide 3, Academic Holocaust. Log on today to purchase your very own 3-set docu-series.
Wingy Apparel is the latest fly and revolutionary streetwear to hit the market. Wingy is the outfitters of freedom fighters everywhere. Wingy is a Swahili word that means abundance. No one has ever gone broke by giving. So if you have it in abundance, sharing is better than receiving. Follow us on Instagram at Wingy Apparel. That's at WINGIAPPAREL.
Get ready for the event of the year.
Let's get it. Here we go.
The Foundational Black American Conference, happening Saturday, June 20th, 2020 at the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta. Hosted by Tariq Nasheed, with special guest Professor James Small, Judge Joe Brown, Shahrazad Ali, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Riza Islam, Dr. Kaba Kamene, and many more to be announced. This is the empowerment event you don't want to miss. Get your tickets and vending slots at FBAC2020.com. That's FBAC2020.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back from our quick commercial break. And when I went on a break, someone texted me some very bad news. And then I did receive some good news as well. So let me get to the bad news first. I don't know if many of y'all are aware, but we had one of our Grandmaster teachers and our icon return to the essence. And that individual is Dr. Leah Africa. He has now joined the ancestral rim. I posted on Facebook a rest in peace to the beloved brother. It was with great sadness that we received this information from his family, and it was announced on social media. As y'all know, the brother was a holistic healer, acupuncturist, metaphysician, author, historian, among many other things. And we would like to say rest in peace to Dr. Africa. And those that knew him or knew him personally know that he was a giant and was definitely ahead of his time. So I just want to get that out the way. So that was the bad news. The good news is that I had posted a tweet earlier, and I was telling everybody on Facebook and Instagram that I was going to do this podcast tonight on Madam C.J. Walker, and we was going to debunk all the lies and half-truth about this Netflix documentary. And lo and behold, I get a text message from my sister Crystal, and she told me she wanted to introduce me to Eric Majette. And we have the brother on the line, and Eric Majette. He is a historian and founder of the African American Cultural Heritage Collection and owner of the original collection of the Madam C.J. Walker artifacts. Brother Eric Majette, welcome to Necessary Blackness Podcast. How are you, my brother?
I'm fantastic, brother. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm very honored to be here. A couple of years ago, we met through Crystal at an event that you were having over in the Bluff. And I've been following you ever since. I have your documentaries and everything. So it's definitely a pleasure to be here.
Glad we was able to meet in the physical form. I do remember that event. I can't say I remember meeting you because I met a lot of individuals at that event, but I am definitely familiar with your work. And Crystal, she talked very highly of you. So I'm under the assumption that you've seen this train wreck of a movie.
Definitely, I did, and was very upset about it. Just being a historian, knowing and being actually really involved in collecting the history of these two giants, it actually really upset me to know that they knowingly did such a terrible job on two stories that were literally two of the top female self-made millionaires in our history. And I say two because most people don't know about Annie Malone. Annie Malone was actually the first self-made Black millionaire. She was Madam C.J. Walker's boss. So the character that they created in this atrocity, Addie Monroe, is loosely based off of Annie Malone and a bunch of other situations during that time. That was how it was explained by Aaliyah Bundles, the great-great-granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker.
With Hollywood, they like to use what they call their creative license to embellish the truth and to make the story more captivating. And I think with Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Malone's story alone, the rag to riches element of it was enough to make it captivating without putting in lies and half-truth.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that was greatly unappreciated is how they use colorism in this film.
Yes.
And they depicted Annie Monroe as someone who was of a high yellow complexion when she was actually, if not the same complexion as Madam C.J. Walker. Is that correct?
She was slightly lighter, but there was no colorism in Annie Malone's business at all. She literally was one of the people that was adamant about uplifting the race and uplifting Black women.
Would you consider her a light-skinned female?
Light skin / brown skin. You know, she was more of a caramel complexion.
She wasn't high yellow.
No.
Yeah, so that's one thing, because I seen pictures of her, but you know, when it's a black and white picture,
right,
it's almost hard to tell. But
definitely,
the one that I seen, she looked dark in it.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I'm being told by everybody else, that she wasn't a high yellow individual.
No, she was not high yellow.
And the part where they play her as a villain that was bitter and that she stalked Madam C.J. Walker, that is so untrue.
It's totally untrue. Absolutely.
And I just think it does a disservice to her when you look at her history. Because I went back and I did some research on her. Some of the things I knew, some of the things I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Is that, like, as you said, she was actually the first Black millionaire.
That's correct.
And she had over 70,000 sales agents that was working for her at the height of her company.
That's correct.
And the college that she had was a magnificent college.
It was actually so great, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is the funny thing. She owned a city block in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It opened its doors in 1917, excuse me. And this is actually her college. This is the system that she actually put Madam C.J. Walker through. And she also had another famous student that most people don't know about, which was Chuck Berry. He actually graduated from Pearl College as well. And Annie Malone literally was one of the highest paid Black people in the country. In 1923, the Philadelphia Tribune had reported that she had paid $40,000 in taxes in 1924. This woman was rich, and she actually shared her wealth. That was one of her, I guess you could say, one of her downfalls, but she laid the foundation for philanthropy, which Madam C.J. Walker carried on. She gave $5,000 for the first Black YMCA to be created in actual St. Louis. She also gave $25,000, which was the largest single donorship given towards Howard's medical school. And, you know, they try to diminish what she's done. And it's by far, you know, she actually gave more money than Madam C.J. Walker did. But we're not trying to diminish their view of each of the women. But you cannot literally totally try to assassinate somebody's character by coming up with this erroneous, you know, fictional story. You know, they changed the name, which, you know, is already confusing. They did Addie Monroe in the movie, and Addie Malone was the actual person.
I did my research on that, as well as far as her charitable donations to several organizations.
Yes, sir.
And as you said, you know, at the height of her career, she gave away a lot of money. And they able to tell what her worth was by her tax filings. And they said she paid the highest taxes during that year in St. Louis.
Yes, sir.
And what she paid in this day and in this time is equivalent to $5 million in income would been her earnings.
Yes,
so
sir.
that in itself is monumental. And we talking about what, the 1920s?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
She established her company in 1900.
Yeah. And people don't know, there's a letter that Madam C.J. Walker wrote where she was stating that she had $600,000.
She had never made $1 million in her lifetime.
Yeah. And she told her lawyer, she was writing this letter to her lawyer, that she wanted to be a millionaire. Now, with the $600,000, a lot of people were saying that with her property holdings, it would equate it to over $1 million. So that's why she was considered a millionaire.
That is true, and that's by the evaluation of the Guinness Book of World Records. They also did a subtitle at the bottom of the thing that they actually gave to the family for the Guinness Book of World Records, declaring her the first self-made millionaire. But they mentioned Annie Malone and 2 other people that were millionaires before her. And I thought that was interesting. But the caveat that they gave was that there wasn't enough information to substantiate it, which is BS. You have written record from the articles and newspapers around the time. There is written information, which I've collected. Annie Malone put out her own booklets back out in the early teens of what she did. So there's actual records. And also, if you've seen any of the pictures, it's absolutely amazing, the block Poro College building that she built in St. Louis. The funny part about it is later on, after Madam C.J. Walker died, her family and the actual company almost replicated the building almost exactly to the T from Madam C.J. Walker's building that's in Indianapolis still to this day.
Yeah, I seen that. So let me ask you, how accurate is the scene with Booker T. Washington and him not allowing her to speak in the conversation that he had? Because it seemed like it was a lot of sexualism going on there.
There definitely was sexism there, but that was not an accurate account. Even Aaliyah Bundles debunked that on a live that was done yesterday. So that account did not happen. He did not allow her, the first session, he did not allow her to speak, but she did wind up speaking at the next year. And also she hosted him at her house. But that dialogue and everything was added for Hollywood sensationalism.
So the part where he didn't show up at a house, that was not true. He actually did have a meeting at a house.
Yeah, that was the following year that he actually did. But that was all added. That was creative license, as they call it.
Yeah, it's just so many lies and mistruth and
so much.
A lot of things that was left out. Even they didn't highlight a lot about
Poro
College.
Yeah, they never touched on it at all. They never actually admitted that she was a top salesperson for Madam C.J. Walker, and she did not go straight to Indianapolis. She left St. Louis and she went to Denver for several years, and she was still selling Annie Malone's products.
Yeah,
there was no type of colorism in that. There was like no division between them. Madam C.J. Walker was one of her trusted and closest friends and agents.
In fact, she was her top agent.
She was her top selling agent.
Yeah. When I was looking on and doing some research about Poro College, the entire complex alone costed $500,000.
Yes, sir.
And it had classrooms, it had a factory, a sewing room, barbershop, a dining hall, gymnasium, bakery, chapel, roof garden, and a 500-seat auditorium. You have some historical black colleges today that don't even have
exactly
that. So
that's right.
This was phenomenal to be happening in the 1900s, the early 1900s at that. Well, let me ask you something else. Now, this is a big thing, especially in Hollywood, when they take our stories and they try to cast us in a negative light, or in a light that is something that the majority of us is diametrically opposed to. Now, we've seen that with the movie Harriett. It had a fictional character in there named Bigger that never existed. And it seemed that they made him the villain instead of her slave master.
Right.
Now, in this film with Madam C.J. Walker's daughter, they tried to allude to the fact that she had a sexual relationship with another female, a lesbian relationship.
Right.
Now, from the research that I have found, it said that, her daughter was a socialite and threw a lot of parties where she invited a lot of high society people during the Harlem Renaissance, and she was very LGBT friendly. But she was not a lesbian. In fact, she was married twice, I think 2 or 3 times. Tell me a little bit about that.
That actually was created. The lady that that is alleged that she had a relationship is a totally made up character. That was actually it was really foul, actually, that they insinuated this. Now, Alelia Walker, she changed her name to Alelia. She added the A and apostrophe to her name. She was a socialite, as you said. She entertained a lot of the actual Harlem Renaissance leaders. So she was very friendly to everybody Black. It didn't matter their sexual orientation, their religion, anything like that. She entertained everybody because she was very into the arts and everything. And she wanted to create her own niche. So she had a club. She had the Dark Tower, which they did mention in the actual film out of her Harlem brownstone. There was no historical evidence at all that she was a lesbian at all. Even Alelia Bundles said that. So she was a little upset about that. Also, the other thing, and you might touch on this later, but they created that that rift between her and her husband, as far as for Madam C.J. Walker. He did not, there's no record that he ever cheated on her at all. And he never had a problem with her establishing her company.
No,
but it was never discussed like that.
You said that her granddaughter debunked that, but isn't the book based on?
No,
I mean, isn't the movie based on the book by her granddaughter?
It's not. This is the issue with that, and this is my major issue with that. The book actually, it's what they did was they licensed the rights of the book. They used that quote unquote as the basis of the self-made series, but it doesn't go off of the book at all.
Me being in the film industry, I have come across many contracts where when they license your work, they can tell you that they can create fictional characters.
Anything from it, absolutely.
That they can change things, they can omit things, and this is why a lot of people don't like to give up their creative control on certain projects, or they like to have I forget what the clause is, but they make the final decision on the rewrites or anything like that. And it's a shame that this happened to her. Pretty much, for those that don't know the story of Madam C.J. Walker, this is the narrative that they are given. But for those like myself and you who know that, we're not believing that story.
Right, absolutely.
And we definitely diametrically opposed to it, and we got to speak out about it because Hollywood shouldn't be allowed to do this.
Right. It's character assassination, not only for Annie Malone, but also for Alelia Walker, and then also for Madam C.J. Walker. I don't think if Madam C.J. Walker had a say in it, that she would have allowed them to do that to Annie Malone. And then they shortened everything. They took everything out of context, out of date, just to fit this in a short period of time.
Now, what would you say to people? Because I had a couple of people, when I was saying that, this is wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying, well, LeBron James is one of the executive producers. Now, I know most executive producers, a lot of times they lend their name to a project or their contribution is just monetarily. Like he probably don't even know the whole entire story.
Exactly.
So what do you say to people that say, well, it was a movie about us that was made by a Black producer and, they complicit in doing this, or is it just Hollywood?
I would say it's Hollywood, but partially. I think LeBron James heard about a good potential story that would have been great to fund, which he did. But I believe the way his company is set up is that he actually will outsource the production of everything. He does the funding and everything. And I'm not taking away from anything like saying that he wasn't involved, blah, blah, blah. I don't know that for any, certainty. But what I do know is that, and you touched on it, I don't know if you touched on it intentionally, the actual screenwriter and the one that produced, I'm not even sure, she might have directed it, I'm not sure. But Harriett is the same person that did this story. Did you know that?
Oh, you talking about the lady? Her name starts with a K, and the last
Yes.
name is Lemons.
Uh-huh. She's the same person that did Harriet.
Oh, no
And I
wonder.
didn't know if you knew that, but I thought it was
Nah, I
funny that
didn't
you
know
actually
that.
mentioned it. Yes, sir.
Nah, I didn't
She's
know
actually
that.
the one. So I kind of expected it. Once I saw, I was like, oh no. I hope she doesn't take creative license like she did with Harriet's story. Because Harriet Tubman's story is amazing on its own. A lot of people don't know. I just actually, while I was on tour for Black History Month, I visited Harriet Tubman's 32-acre estate. Most people don't even know that she had that. And it still exists today.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to her 32-acre estate where she had an apple orchard. She had, at one point, a pig farm, all of that stuff. So her story alone, she was the first Black entrepreneur. Most people don't know that. So the story alone is amazing.
Wow.
There's no need to add or subtract from a story that literally already has as much liberation as possible in it. There was no reason to add or take or embellish. I can understand embellishments, but actual lies, that a movie is based on 90% of stretched truth. I want to say lies, but I don't want to be too harsh, but that's what it was.
Nah, it was outright lies, brother.
Yeah.
You know, we got to tell the truth and let the chips fall where it may.
Where they may. That's right.
The director was Casey Lemmon.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Kasi Lemmon, since he spelled it with 2 M's. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she
same
needs
person
to be banished from
Harriet.
Hollywood.
Well, you know, I think the sensationalism probably is what got the cosign. Because what they're doing is they're taking issues in that time period and adding them to them, and automatically, because of the Harlem Renaissance and a lot of the leaders in the Harlem Renaissance were of an alternative lifestyle. They just wanted to add that in there for quote unquote color. That was not necessary.
Well, I know that Madam C.J. Walker's daughter was she had relationships, you know, friendships with a lot of notable Black people during that time
Langston
that
Hughes,
lived that alternative
everybody.
lifestyle, such as
Correct.
Langston Hughes and forget the other individual name. He's a poet.
Yes.
They could have showed that in there
exactly
without, you know, making her a lesbian.
Right.
If that was their intentions, to show what actually happened and who was the principal players. But yeah, to do that, they want to push that hidden agenda.
Yeah, it does actually look like it in this instance, because it's like there were so many ways they could have done that. They could have added in the characters, like you said, the actual people that she was involved with, that she was friends with, that she actually gave a platform to. Everybody that was who's who of anything was at the Dark Tower.
Mm-hmm.
There was no need for them to add this to her character in this movie. There was no need.
So let me ask you about your collection.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I have the pleasure of being what Dick Gregory named me as the keeper of the jewels. I have one of the largest traveling Black history collections in the world. I've been entrusted with upwards of 10,000 pieces of original Black artifacts. My Madam C.J. Walker collection and Poro collection is it's probably my third largest collection amongst my Marcus Garvey collection. That's one of my largest. I have over 200 pieces on Garvey. My Malcolm X collection, which is major. The Nation of Islam. I've got a little bit of everything. My earliest piece is an original 15th century map of Africa. And my most contemporary is Tupac's first publishing contract. But in particular with the Walker and the Poro collection, I have over probably about, it's over 60 original items of Madam Walker, and actually it's increased since then. Original pieces, like there's very little original pieces from prior to her death, because the company was much more popular after she died. It grew in popularity. So I have a piece from 1918, which was the year before she died. That was actually her capital stock campaign, where she was raising $10,000. So I have that. I also have her textbooks. I have, oh man, there's so many. I have probably a dozen let me see, probably about 10 or almost a dozen of her original. No, it is a dozen. It's a dozen of her original products. The tins with, and it actually still have product in them. Annie Malone, same thing. I have several of her original products. Also, her book that she put out once she opened up her DePoro College. So the original, like this is, it's so old, it's frail. Have that. Also have what I haven't seen anywhere else, which is original diplomas. I have a Madam C.J. Walker College of Beauty Culture diploma, and also an original Annie Malone Poro College diploma. I also have Chuck Berry's 1952, I believe it was, his prom and graduation photo from Poro College that actually has him and Annie Malone in it.
Wow.
So
you said Chuck Berry?
Yes, sir.
The musician?
The musician. He was a certified cosmetologist and graduated from the same hair system that Madam C.J. Walker did.
Didn't he wear his hair in a conch?
He sure did.
Wow.
And did his own hair his entire career.
See, this is unknown history.
It is.
And brother, I definitely thank you for coming on this show.
My pleasure.
Let me ask you, nobody from the production crew, nobody from set design or any of that reached out to you and asked, could any of these artifacts be used or to consult with you as a historian on the life and times of Madam C.J. Walker?
No, I was not. I'm fair. I kept a fairly low profile, and that was because I work in film and television myself. So most of the time, I've been working, saving up money to buy back our history. I have not had any loans, grants, or anything to buy back our history. I paid for everything out of my own pocket. So I've kept a low profile because I was building something that the ancestors really, I want to say forced me to do, but really impacted my life to do. And that was to have ownership of our history. So I did it stealthily. And from there, once I actually got everything established and created a full body of work, that's when I started coming out about it. Now, I did reach out to them, and I was told that it was all good. They had everything that they needed from the family. I even reached out to the family, and initially I was told, no, we don't need anything. I have everything. I said, okay, great. No problem. And then at one point I did speak with Aaliyah Bundles, and we were going to get together, and I was going to actually do an interview with her. And this was at the time that this was the end of last year. Actually, no, that was summer of last year, that her brother actually was in the end stages of his life. So she wasn't available. And that kind of canceled that out. But it was funny. I was just finishing up in January a film. Actually, it was a TV show, Black Lightning. And that actually is by the same company, that overall company that produced this film. And when they heard about my collection, it was just like, oh, well, let's reach out to see with the PR department to see if they wanted to include any of your exhibits in, some of the premieres. And it went a little ways, but it didn't go far enough because it was not going into theaters. So they were just kind of doing like screening parties and stuff like that. And then that just fizzled out. So nothing ever came of that.
Well, it might have been a good thing that...
Oh, it was. I would have been furious.
They didn't use none of your artifacts in this fictionalized movie, because now it just opens the door for it to be used in the real movie. Exactly. And the same thing with Harriett. A lot of people were saying that movie got to be done over.
It definitely does.
Just as they could make 5 and 10 Biggie and Tupac movies.
That's right.
I think the best and the brightest minds that are amongst us can get together and give an actual depiction of both of these iconic figures, and I hope you will be a part of that, brother. Because
definitely. I'm actually
you have
working
the
on
history and the artifacts to pull it off.
I'm actually
So
working on a screenplay per se, just chronicling the story of Amy Malone. And I actually figured, since they did that Tupac and Biggie one, I thought about doing something where it combined both of their stories. But that would take me getting with some of my friends in the industry to actually work on that, where I can share the information with them and they can actually write the screenplay. But that's not hard at all.
So if someone wanted to get in contact with you to visit your exhibits and artifacts, or if they wanted to, support you with some financial funding, how would they go about doing that?
Okay, they can actually go to the website. It's blackhistoryarchives.com, and they have all the information on there. I'm also on Instagram at the AACHC. That's the African American Cultural Heritage Collection, AACHC. And then my personal screen name on IG is the Mr. Majestic, and they'll see both of my pages, intertwined on there. And I do spot exhibits now. I'm more so travel more than I had. I had a location in Midtown. I gave that up in 2016 because I was spending $2,000 a month on rent, and literally was only there maybe 3 times a month because I was traveling so much with work. So I gave that up and I started doing actual exhibits, touring different places across the country, taking the history to the people.
Where's some of the places you've been to?
Oh, boy. I actually did a little something in China while I was living over there for 2 years. This was way before Corona, of course. I came back in 2018 and I've been back since. But I did something as far as China. I've done stuff in New Jersey. I just finished, actually, the last stop was here in Atlanta. We did at the Black House with Ernestine and Jay Morrison over at the Black House. So we did a 200-piece exhibit over there. And then before that, I was actually with the Nation of Islam for a week for Savior's Day as a part of their historical exhibit for that weekend. And before then, I kind of went on a Black history tour, sacred sites and history tour, where I went to, almost 20 different historical sites, sacred sites for Black people. I visited Malcolm X and Betty Shabazz's final resting place, James Baldwin, Paul Robeson, Khalid Muhammad, Moms Mabley, Cab Calloway, Aaliyah, Madam C.J. Walker, her daughter Aaliyah Walker, Harriett Tubman's final resting place, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, George Washington Carver, and Booker T. Washington. So did all that on the tour. Visited the firebomb house of Malcolm X a week before he had been assassinated. Went to Madam C.J. Walker's house, took some photos there. Harriet Tubman's 32-acre estate, went there. Madam C.J. Walker's manufacturing company and now theater, and also the Sojourner Truth statue. So February was a very busy month.
So you did all that tour in the month of February?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I know who to hang out with next year in February.
Yeah, it was amazing. It really was amazing. And it's funny because people, once they started seeing, I started putting out little bits of it because I wanted to do a full presentation of everything. So I was like, well, let me wait to put out the images. And what I did was I kind of put out like selfies of me at the spaces. And I put those out and people were like, oh my God, are you taking people on tours? Can we go? Can a group of us go together? And I was like, oh, wow, this is bigger than I expected. I was just led to do this. And now the response, I'm actually thinking about, taking people on a guided tour to these sacred spaces. One of the things that Garvey was saying was that, we as people need to stop waiting for white people to co-sign or canonize our heroes. We need to canonize our own saints. Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth are canonized as saints in the Episcopalian faith or denomination. So it's like we have this responsibility to venerate our own ancestors. We don't need anybody else to tell us what they did in a time frame that, the stacks were totally against us. We have our own saints to look up to. And that was kind of what this tour was. It was visiting and paying homage to our ancestors that literally paved the way for us. And what we're facing today was nothing compared to what they were facing.
Teach.
And then just to go and absorb some of their energy, be in their midst at their final resting places. I can't even explain to you the the power and the transfer of energy, it was speechless. I really can't even, I can't put it into words. I did capture those visits, and it's funny, you know, in our tradition, historically African tradition, you know, we poured libations. So there was, I went to the thing and I picked up some apple. It was some type of apple liquor. I don't even know what it was, but I didn't know at the time. So after I visited Harriet Tubman's, her 32 acres, the actual curator over there said that she had an apple orchard. And I did not know that. And that just happened to be the libation that I poured at her final resting place.
Great minds think alike.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of historical sites. I've been to Mega Everett's home.
Yes.
I seen the actual bullet hole
Yeah.
in the house. They still got the same furniture, refrigerator. They got the toys and the bed that his kids laid on. And it showed where the bed was positioned, how low the bed is. And had that bullet came through there instead of
killed.
that wall, it would have possibly shot his daughters.
Yeah.
I've been to Nat Turner Trail in Virginia. The brother Khalifa, he gives that tour. I've been to the Malcolm X sites and different things like that, but
can I mention?
Have I been to as many places as you?
Oh well, I'm so honored. I really am. One thing you touched on was actually Nat Turner, and it's pretty cool. In my collection, I have one of the earliest books that people don't even know. I don't know how many copies were made, but it was about the Nat Turner insurrection. And also, I have firsthand account. It was a slave owner. She was writing her niece or returning the correspondence from her niece, and she actually names Nat Turner by name in her letter. So I have that as a part of my collection. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It ain't the one where what's that guy's name, man? He wrote a book on Nat Turner and tried to make him
that it was the interview. No, not that
sexual desires for the white woman.
White women. Yeah, no, that's bogus. Here it is, right here. Nat Turner. Let me get this box out. I have that one as well. But that one's not the that one was a fictional account anyway. But sorry for that noise. This book is actually called The Southampton Insurrection. It's by Drury. So most people don't even know this book exists. This actually was, and the funny part is my family, my father's side is actually from this area, and I didn't realize it. And when the guy saw my last name, he asked me, was I from the area? I said, well, no, my family's from Hertford County, Hertford County, North Carolina, which is literally across the bridge from Southampton. And come to find out, my grandfather's mother's family is from Darden, Virginia, which is all in that area. And I had no clue. So my family actually stems from that area. And this book was actually written in 1900.
Oh, wow.
And it's by William Sidney Drury.
Okay.
He's from the University of Virginia. Most people don't even know this book exists. It was copywritten in 1900.
Yeah, I got to see if I can check that book out. So in closing, because we're about to come to the 45-minute mark. But in closing, since we're speaking on movies and fictional characters, what do you think about Who Killed Malcolm X that appeared on Netflix?
That movie, that series, I actually thought was amazing. It was something I always wanted to do and just didn't have the evidence. I'm from New Jersey. My family's from Newark. So a lot of the stuff...
Don't say that too loud.
I know, right? But no, not related to anybody in it. But the crazy part was it was really, really interesting. I liked the way he broke down everything. He did it in a very historical and scholarly way. And it resulted in the funny part was I was actually at Malcolm X's grave when they announced that they were opening the case back up. And that was crazy.
That's the universe right there. That's universal.
It really was. I was really shocked. And was just, man, just the energy there was just crazy.
Now, let me tell you some of the things that I found a little troubling in there. Now, there was never a mention of Farrakhan. They showed a picture when the camera panned it by him sitting in the front row at Temple number 7. But as soon as Malcolm X was assassinated, he became the minister.
Right,
the same
which they didn't
temple
mention. I thought that was
that
interesting.
Malcolm X resided over. And I thought, making no mention of him, I didn't understand that.
Well,
and then there was the part, if you know the story of Malcolm X, he gave a speech where he said that Elijah Muhammad was taking money from a white oil tycoon in Texas, and his name is something H.L. I think it's H.L. Hunt. There was no mentioning of that, and he said that he was able to see that the Nation of Islam was spending more money than they was bringing in, and he said his wife, Elijah Muhammad's wife, one of his wife, was sending a lot of money to Cairo. Right now, we know that when Malcolm was in Cairo, he was poisoned.
That's right.
So it don't necessarily mean that the Nation of Islam or she had anything to do with it, but it does give you pause for concern where you be like, okay, that especially when you're doing investigative reporting,
right? Journalism, absolutely.
So it's just I got about 10 other things that I was just like, and I know when you're doing these type of movies due to time constraint that you can't include everything in there. Right. But I just found that just certain things. But as far as actually naming the individual and some of the principal players that was involved in that, there's several books out. One of them being the Judas Factor and a few others that actually lays some of those claims out. But to actually see the paperwork from the FBI that wasn't shared with the New York Police Department and that whole scenario, it was like, wow, this is crazy.
It seems as if there's going to be a second part too. Did you notice that?
No, not really. I'm kind of more interested in seeing how this case plays out.
Right. And I think that's probably why they left it open. They didn't cover the other ones, and I'll go back and watch it again, but they didn't go into detail about the other ones as they did with the last one that had mysteriously died while they were filming.
Yeah. I think one of the good things that may come out of it is the individual who is still presently alive and amongst us.
Him being exonerated.
That he will get exonerated.
Yeah.
I think that will be something that is overly due.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing would be just to almost in a sense of what happened with Martin Luther King when the family sued the federal government and they won. And they said that the government was guilty and complicit in the murder of Martin Luther King. I think something needs to happen with Malcolm X in that same manner. Even though nobody from the government went to jail, it's just laying out the facts of the case,
Absolutely.
But sometimes when things like that happen, it's almost like benign neglect. You make you think like you really doing something, but you actually not doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Just my thoughts, my ideas.
Definitely. I agree 100%. It's actually necessary because what you're doing is you're actually making a public statement. If it doesn't do anything but actually substantiate what people knew already, it's actually that it's been said. It's cleared the air. So I think that is still necessary. I think the government owes that to the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were complicit in keeping their secret for sure.
Alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're amazing. Still doing the works of their parents and still, contributing to society with their own lives. They're not living, high on the hog, as, the old folks say. They're actually working Americans that are literally trying to share and live their lives, under the shadow of their parents that were taken away from them too soon.
Yeah, one of them is a school teacher. I think she's a professor at a college.
Like her mother.
Yeah, and the other one,
one of them,
came out with
Malak. Yeah, Ilyasa has a couple of books.
Yeah.
Growing Up X, and then there's two more. I can't remember. Yeah, and then Malak is she's on. Oh man, she's on the UN something council, and the African. Oh man, I can't remember the name of the organization, but she's an ambassador to the African organization. I can't remember what it is right now, but she's an ambassador to that. She came down here to Atlanta and was speaking at the Auburn Avenue research library. And I actually shared with her some pieces I had. I have a love letter. It's actually a postcard from their father to their mother.
Original piece?
She had. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I told you my Malcolm X collection is amazing. I have his Bible that he had. It's a New Testament, small little pocket Bible that he had. It's the last time he signed his name as Brother Malcolm X. It was the day before he completed his Hajj. So he says, "Greetings from the fountain, Brother Malcolm X." And it's absolutely amazing, that piece. I have another Savior's Day card from him to Sister Betty, and 2-page letter from him to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I actually have his very first letter ever that he wrote while he was in jail. It was 6 months into his bid in jail, where he's actually writing the parole board to get transferred to the Norfolk prison. And it was because, he wanted to be in a place where there was a library where he can actually better himself. And they had sports activities at the other particular prison. And he was writing, he was saying, it's so amazing to actually see how intelligent he was before his conversion, if you will, to Islam. His parents were Garveyites. His father was the president, and his mother was the secretary of the UNIA in their hometown. And he was raised with, just being a Pan-African, if you will, or a Black nationalist from birth, literally. And that showed in his letter. The first letter is absolutely amazing. We'll talk about that at another time because I don't want to continue on, but there's so much more we could talk about. But my Malcolm X
definitely got to
talk.
I got to come out and see your artifacts and your collection. Yes. And brother, whatever I can do to spread the word, whenever you have an exhibit showing, you definitely let me know, and I'll let the Necessary Blackness podcast family know in advance, and we will come out and support. And I just want to tell every and anybody that is listening to this, I'm sure that those artifacts and those collections, in order for this brother to be able to retrieve those things, it costs a lot of money, and we need to do all we have and all within our power to make sure that we get those collections, we hold on to them, and that they remain in our hands.
Absolutely.
Because I was just reading about an artifact from Ghana that's in the hand of the British. And they wanted to use it for an exhibit in their museum. And the British told them that they wanted $1 million as insurance and guarantee that they will return it back. And this is stuff that the British stole from Ghana.
Everything Europe has, they stole from Africa.
And
whether
I
it was Egypt or anything else. Absolutely. That's right. They have some nerve.
Yeah, so we got to do what we can, man, to support this brother. And I want to thank you for appearing on our broadcast.
Thank you, brother.
And is there anything that you want to say in your last closing word, or is there anything I should have asked you, I didn't ask you, I forgot to ask you, that you want to put out there?
Oh, man. Just make sure that we're taking full ownership of our history. don't take anything at face value that were shown on TV. The major thing that literally started me on the quest that I was for buying back our history was that he who owns the history controls the history. And if we don't maintain ownership of our narrative, we're always going to be spoon-fed foolishness like this. That's fictionalized and we don't know any better. And we're buying into it like it's something like it's, the best thing since sliced bread. But if you know your history, people can't feed you lies. Always question. That's really what I say to our people. Question everything.
That's right. And you heard it right here first on Necessary Blackness Podcast. Peace and power, family. I'll see you next time, same place, next week. Peace and power, family. This is Raheem Shabazz, and this is another episode of Necessary Blackness Podcast.